Today, I want to talk about my free letter bundle. These is 4 letters, and yes, I said free, that I want to help you guys out with on your credit journey. The letters are going to be a pay to delete letter, a Goodwill letter, a cease and desist letter, as well as a debt validation letter. Each one of these letters, I want to explain what it is, when's the best time to use it, a pro and a con with regards to the letters. Hopefully this will help you on your credit journey. Again, it's my free letter bundle, and I'm going to explain each letter and how to use it. So stay tuned. My name is Jay, and welcome to Ask a Debt Collector, a subsidiary of Clear and Strategic. Now, I've been in the debt collection industry for over 15 years. I've done it all, from management to owning 2 debt collection companies. Over the last 10 years, I've been the go-to guy for friends and family for questions regarding debt and credit. Now I want to be that person for you. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. Let's go. I want to thank each and every one of you guys who have subscribed, liked videos, shared videos. Be sure to like this video so that other people can get this free information to help them on their credit journey. And if you're brand new to the channel, look at subscribing if you want to learn stuff about credit and debt. Now, the first letter I want to talk about is probably the most popular out of the 4 letters that I'm talking about, and that is the pay to delete letter. This letter, in essence, is a letter that you send to a creditor or a debt collection company, which basically states that if, in fact, you do pay this account, whether you're settling it or paying it in full, that they'll delete the account off of your credit profile. The positive with regards to this is simple. If they do accept a pay to delete letter, if you had like a $4,000 Capital One negative trade on your credit report, once you do in fact pay the account off, they'll delete that negative trade. Typically what happens is if you pay off an account, it'll be updated as a paid in full account, and then that can stay on your record for 7 years. By using the pay to delete, that account will come off of your credit profile as if it was never there. That is a big positive with regards to the pay to delete letter. Now, there's a caveat with regards to using the pay to delete letter. In my program, and I'm not trying to sell you anything, but there is a program I have called Debt Negotiator Pro. There are 5 video courses that teach you step by step how to settle out your accounts. One of the things that I specify is the pay to delete, right? Now, the key thing is within your negotiations, there's a perfect time with regards to trying to use the pay to delete letter to best benefit you. Now, let's talk about one of the negatives of the pay to delete. One of the things you guys have to understand is the creditor or the debt collection agency has the right to refuse that pay to delete letter, right? They don't have to accept it, right? They can say, no, we don't delete the account off of your trade line, but obviously we will still offer you a settlement, or we still will take balance in full. So understand that just because you're offering a pay to delete letter doesn't mean that they actually have to accept it. And a key thing is, if the debt collection company states that they will delete the account off of your credit profile, if you're getting a settlement, make sure that they add that in the settlement letter. And before you pay them, you make sure you see that in the actual settlement letter so you can have that for your records. And if they're just stating they would do it, make sure you get it in writing before you actually pay. The next letter that I want to talk about is a Goodwill letter. Now, this is a letter giving to creditors, typically the original creditor, to remove late payments off of your credit profile. Understand something. One late payment has the ability to drop your score 50 to 100 points. By using the Goodwill letter to remove that late payment as if it was never there, it can definitely help boost your score 50 to 100 points. One of the negatives with a Goodwill letter and a template, and it's not to discourage anybody from doing it, but if you have 20 late payments, or you have a bunch of trade lines with a bunch of late payments back to back to back, a lot of times a Goodwill letter will not work for you. Typically, a Goodwill letter is for those individuals who have 1 to maybe 3 max late payments, you have a positive payment history in general with the company. So, you've paid for 2 years where you haven't had a late payment, and maybe something has came about, like the pandemic. During that time span, a lot of people had late payments because they just didn't have funds to pay it, or you may have lost your job or something along those lines. It works for 1 to 3 late payments. If you have multiple late payments, typically it doesn't work, but understand something. It doesn't hurt to try and use it. Maybe they'll move a couple of those late payments off of your credit profile. The next letter that I want to talk about is a cease and desist letter. Now, what that is used for is when you have a debt collection company contacting you or harassing you constantly with regards to a debt that you actually owe. By sending in that cease and desist letter to the original creditor, or typically a debt collection company, that'll stop them from actually contacting you by phone. Typically, what that'll specify is that from now on, any communication will be done through writing. So anything that may happen with regards to your account, they will send it to you in writing, and they will no longer contact you. One of the pros in this thing is embarrassment, right? One of the things that I know, when I worked at a debt collection company and owned a debt collection company, one of the main ways I got consumers to pay their debt is by contacting third parties. Now, we had a skip tracing tool that we would use, and it will bring up possible relatives and associates of you as an individual. Now, remember, as a debt collector, we can't call those relatives of yours and say, hey, I'm calling with regards to a Capital One credit card that your cousin owes on, or that your brother owes on. That's third party disclosure. If you have any debt collection company contacting third parties, anyone outside of you, and disclosing what the debt is about, that is a violation of the FDCPA, and you can actually sue them and be paid for that. But ultimately, I would contact them and say, hey, we're trying to get in contact with such and such with regards to a legal matter here in our office, or with regards to an important matter here in our office. We need to speak to them as soon as possible. And a lot of times when you have your cousin contacting you, your mom contacting you, and even worse, mother and father-in-laws may be associates. If you were married to a person and you can have a divorce from them, that information can be brought up as well. So with the cease and desist letter, it can stop all of that information with regards to that. It'll stop them from contacting third parties, as well as yourself, your place of employment, a bunch of other things to try and get you to pay the debt and harass you. And they will only be able to communicate with you in writing. One of the negatives with regards to this, and I want you guys to understand, by sending a cease and desist letter, is one of the companies that I worked for, accounts will go on a collections floor, right? And as a collector, I remember our job was to try and collect the money. Whenever we got a cease and desist letter, that account automatically got packaged up and sent over to our legal department. And then they would do an investigation to see if you own any assets or if you're working. And a lot of times with sending that cease and desist letter, yes, it'll stop the harassing calls, but there's a possibility that you can be sued on your account. So I want you to understand that with regards to your accounts in general. So understand that when you do send a cease and desist letter, that could possibly happen. It's not a guarantee, and it will stop, obviously, phone calls to yourself, third parties, in your place of employment. The last letter that I want to talk about is a debt validation letter. A debt validation letter is a letter that you send to the creditor or a debt collection company to prove that you actually owe the account. One of the things you guys have to understand, and I understand as a debt collector and actually owning a debt collection company, is with a debt validation letter, a lot of times the information that you're asking for, even though you know you owe that account, let's say that Capital One account, a debt validation letter will verify with the debt collection company that they actually have authorization to collect on the account. They have their licensing to obviously collect in your state, and they actually have an actual signed contract with regards to those letters. Now, let me give you a little inside scoop with regards to that. When I used to purchase accounts in bulk, a lot of times in order to get that information, it changed the price of the account that I actually pay for. Obviously, you're buying it in bulk. I may buy 100 accounts, right? it may only cost me $1,300 to $1,500 for those 100 accounts. If I want the actual signed contracts and the bill of sale and a lot of information with regards to those accounts, it's going to cost a lot more, double or triple the amount. So a lot of debt collection companies do not pay that fee in hopes that you don't send this debt validation letter. Because if you send a debt validation letter, even though we know you owe it and you know you owe it, if we don't have the proper paperwork to prove that we can actually collect on this debt and we could be collecting it from you, then what happens when you send a debt validation letter is we would have to close the account out. I would probably close out 5 to 10 accounts each month because consumers sent debt validation letters. And even though we know that they actually owe the account and it is their account, we didn't have the proper paperwork to actually be collecting on that account. So that is where a debt validation letter comes in handy. It's very good to use when you get a demand letter in the mail, right? If you get a demand letter, a lot of times we want to throw those letters away, open it up, read it, and sending a debt validation letter will help buy you some time and make sure that that collection agency hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're collecting in a correct way. Another time would be if you're actually served with a summons to appear in court. You want to get a debt validation letter because with an affidavit of indebtedness, all they need is your first, last name, the social, and your actual account to file the suit. And a lot of times they're just hoping that you as a consumer, when you go to court, you're going to say, yeah, I owe this $3,000 or whatever it is to this original creditor. Yeah, and I know that, they're going to try and sue me, and that's that. Where the debt validation letter comes in is again, it holds their feet to the fire to make sure that they can actually collect on the account and provide documentation that's needed with regards to filing a suit. And so what you're going to want to do is send a debt validation certified letter to the original creditor as well as the attorney that's trying to sue you. And then thirdly, you want to send it when you file an answer with regards to getting served a summons. When you're served a summons, you have to file an answer. When you file an answer with regards to the debt, add that debt validation letter with that information and send it off. That way you can make sure that the creditor gets the information as well as that attorney gets the information of validating that debt. For each and every one of you guys who stayed till the end, I want to give you what I consider a free letter bundle. Down below, click the link. You will get a template for each one of these letters. A pay to delete, a Goodwill letter, a cease and desist letter, as well as a debt validation letter. You'll get it absolutely for free. This is to help you on your credit journey. I know that these are the 4 most important letters to help you out with regards to dealing with creditors and so forth concerning your debt, and I want to give this to you absolutely for free. So opt in for that, click the link, fill out the information, and you will get to your email all 4 of those letter templates. All you have to do is plug in your information, where your information goes. Typically it may be in red with regards to that. And then voila, you have the verbiage and all the information that's needed with regards to each one of those 4 letters. Now, if you have any questions about credit or debt, put it down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. And as I always state, you be great.